from inclusiveteach.com called Parents of SEN. Children share 11 tiny wins that make a huge difference, and it's truly heartwarming. And it was published pretty recently, July 30, 2024.
Oh, wow. So it's pretty fresh.
It's pretty fresh. It's got all these like real life stories and practical tips.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, one of the things that really struck me about these tips is how much they focus on empowerment.
Mm.
You know, it's not just about making things easier for the parents. It's about giving the children the tools they need to kind of manage their own challenges and thrive.
Yeah, and that's such a good point. And that brings me to the first tip that really kind of jumped out at me, and that's the power of routine. In the article, there's this mom, Emily, and she talks about how it's like a consistent bedtime routine, you know, bath book bed.
Oh, yeah.
Like everyone's happier, like boom, you know. So from your perspective, why is routine so important?
Well, I think for children with SEN, the world can often feel very unpredictable, you know?
Right.
And overwhelming, and routine kind of provides that structure that can be so grounding.
Totally.
You know? It helps them navigate their day with less anxiety.
Yeah, that makes complete sense because it's like a roadmap.
Exactly.
You know, they know what to expect, and that makes them feel safer and calmer.
Exactly. It creates a calmer environment for everyone.
For sure.
And I think what's interesting is the article also talks about visual schedules.
Oh, yeah.
Which you can almost see as like an extension of routine, right?
Yeah. Yep.
There's this dad, Carlos, and he talks about how a visual schedule, you know, with pictures of each activity,
Oh, wow.
helped reduce meltdowns for his son.
That is so smart.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, so now you're taking the routine and you're making it visual so the child can actually see it.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it more concrete.
Right.
You know, and for children who maybe struggle with verbal instructions or abstract concepts of time, this is really, really helpful.
Yeah, because they can be involved in the process of, you know, understanding the flow of their day.
Exactly. And it promotes independence.
Yes, for sure. And I think that's so important, giving them that control. And speaking of control, another tip I loved was the idea of creating quiet corners.
Oh, yes.
A safe space where a child can just go when things get a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, decompress a little bit.
Yeah, decompress, exactly. And there's this dad, Alex, in the article who described his son's quiet corner, and it sounds magical. Like soft pillows, a weighted blanket, and calming lights.
It's like a little haven.
It is like a little haven.
Oh.
So why are quiet corners so important?
Well, I think we all need that space sometimes, you know, to retreat and de-stress and recharge.
Totally.
And especially children with sensory processing differences who might be more sensitive to noise or light.
Right.
It gives them the tools to kind of calm their own storms.
Yeah, that is such an important life skill, like to be able to self-regulate.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that thing of empowerment.
Yeah.
You know, instead of always relying on adults to soothe them, they can learn to do it themselves.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got routine visual schedules, quiet corners, all great tips for creating a calmer, more predictable environment.
Right.
But what about when it comes to actually engaging with the child and having fun?
Yes.
This article has some great ideas for that too.
It does. One that stood out to me was the emphasis on sensory play.
Yeah.
There's this mom, Karen, who describes sensory play as a favorite activity for her and her child, you know, exploring different textures and materials.
I love that because it's not just about keeping kids entertained. It's about stimulating their senses, encouraging exploration and creativity.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and I know from personal experience that sensory play can be incredibly calming for children with sensory processing differences.
Yes. It taps into their natural curiosity.
Right.
And helps them learn about the world through their senses.
Yeah. And on that note, why don't we take a quick pause and we'll be right back with more of these heartwarming tiny wins.
Welcome back. I'm so glad we're getting into all these tips.
Me too. And we were just about to talk about sensory play.
Oh, yes. Sensory play is such a rich area. And I think, you know, the article mentioned a few specific examples that were really insightful, like Karen talking about using a sensory bin, you know, filling it with different textures, like dried beans, rice, or even just water with bubbles.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I can just imagine how much fun kids would have exploring all those different sensations.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's not just about having fun. It's also about empowerment.
Oh, right. How so?
Well, for some children with sensory processing differences, you know, certain textures or sensations can be really overwhelming, even painful.
Yeah, I can see that.
So sensory play allows them to kind of explore these sensations in a safe and controlled environment. And it can help them gradually desensitize and, you know, gain a sense of mastery over their sensory experiences.
So it's like helping them to feel more comfortable and confident in their own bodies.
No. Exactly. And it can also be a great way to help them regulate their emotions. You know, for example, if a child is feeling anxious or overwhelmed, engaging in calming sensory activities like playing with Play-Doh or squeezing a stress ball can really help them self-soothe and regain a sense of calm.
That makes so much sense. It's like giving them a toolbox of strategies for managing their own sensory needs and emotions.
Precisely. And speaking of toolboxes, the article also highlights the importance of communication boards for children who are nonverbal or have difficulty with verbal expression.
Right.
Sarah, a mom in the article, talks about how a communication board with pictures and symbols was a game changer for her daughter.
I bet, because it's like giving a voice to children who might otherwise struggle to express their needs and feelings.
Exactly. It allows them to participate more fully in their world, you know, communicate their wants and needs, even express their emotions without having to rely solely on spoken language.
That must be so empowering for them.
It is, and it can reduce a lot of frustration for both the child and the parent.
For sure. And it fosters a greater sense of independence, which is what we're all about now. Another tip that I found really interesting was the use of social stories.
Oh, yeah. Social stories are great.
Yeah, the article mentions Mike, a dad, who found that reading social stories helped his son navigate social situations with more confidence. So can you tell us a little bit more about what social stories are and how they work?
Sure. So social stories are basically short narratives that describe a specific social situation, like going to the grocery store or attending a birthday party.
Okay.
They break down the situation into smaller steps, explain the expected behaviors, and even offer suggestions for how to handle potential challenges.
So it's like providing them with a script
Hmm.
for how to behave in different scenarios.
Exactly. And for children with SEN who might struggle to pick up on social cues or understand unwritten social rules,
Right.
social stories can provide that extra layer of support and guidance.
That's
They
brilliant.
can help reduce anxiety, increase understanding, and ultimately lead to more successful social interactions.
It's like giving them a secret decoder ring for the social world.
I love that analogy. And, it's interesting how many of these tips tie back to that theme of predictability and structure.
Yeah, for sure.
Routine visual schedules, social stories, they all provide a framework that helps children with SEN feel more secure and confident in navigating their world.
Absolutely. And I think that sense of security is so essential for their well-being and development.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already: routine, quiet corners, sensory play, communication boards, and social stories. But the article has even more gems to offer. What else caught your eye?
Oh, there are a couple more I think that are really worth mentioning. One is the idea of using personalized playlists.
Ooh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so Maria, a mom in the article, she talks about how she creates specific playlists for different moods, like calming music for when her son is anxious or upbeat music when he needs a boost. And it's really helped him with his emotional regulation.
That's such a cool idea. I mean, music is so powerful, right? It's incredibly therapeutic, especially for children who might have difficulty expressing their emotions verbally.
Right.
It's like a nonverbal outlet for processing feelings.
Yeah, and it can be fun, too.
Exactly.
Who doesn't love a good dance party
Yeah.
to shake off some stress?
Exactly.
And speaking of shaking things up, I noticed the article also talks about the importance of timed breaks,
Yeah.
especially for children who might have shorter attention spans or get overwhelmed easily.
Yeah, that's a good one. John, a dad in the article, he talks about how using a visual timer to signal break times has really helped his son focus better, and it reduces stress for both of them.
I can see how that would be helpful, especially the visual element.
Yes, because it provides that concrete representation of time passing,
Yeah.
which can be reassuring for children who struggle with abstract time concepts.
Totally. If you just look at it, they know exactly how much time is left,
Yeah.
and they can kind of prepare themselves mentally for that transition.
Exactly, and it helps build their sense of independence, too.
Yes, for sure. And finally, the article wraps up with a tip that I think is beneficial for everyone, not just children with SEN mindfulness activities.
Oh, yes, mindfulness is so important.
It is, and the article mentions Emma, a mom who shares how incorporating simple mindfulness exercises like deep breathing and guided imagery has helped her daughter manage anxiety and stay calm.
Mindfulness is such a valuable skill for all of us,
Yeah.
but especially for children who might be more susceptible to stress and emotional dysregulation.
It's like giving them a superpower,
It is.
the power to calm their own storms and find that inner stillness.
I love that. And, as we've been talking about all these tiny wins, it strikes me that they all share a common thread: empowerment.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
It's not just about making things easier for parents. It's about giving children the tools and support they need to thrive.
exactly. To navigate their world with more confidence and joy.
And it's about recognizing their strengths, celebrating their unique abilities, and fostering their independence.
Absolutely. It's about those small victories that add up to big changes in their lives.
Exactly. So to all the parents out there who are on this journey, remember to celebrate those tiny wins.
Yes, you're not alone.
They matter more than you know.
There's a whole community of parents, educators, and professionals who are here to support you.
And if there's one thing we hope you take away from this deep dive, it's this: even the smallest changes can have a ripple effect, creating a more positive and joyful experience for both you and your child.
So as you go about your day, think about those tiny wins. What small change could you make today that might have a big positive impact on your child's well-being?
Maybe it's incorporating a sensory activity, creating a quiet corner, or simply taking a few moments for a mindful breath together.
Every step, no matter how small, is